This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's game day, and welcome to a big edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily heading into tonight's Bombers-Als game at IGF, where the blue and gold look to go 10-0 and remain undefeated on the season. Welcome to the show. Andrew Paterson with you, along with Michael Remis. It's going to be a great one. Eddie Tait's going to join us from IG Field. Ticket sales are nuts today. From hearing from some members of the Bombers organization, it will be over 30,000 tonight. And obviously, the Bombers looking to continue their historic start to the season and trying to match the best start in franchise history since 1960 to get to 10-0. Bombers will be a big topic today, but we'll also talk about some interesting news in the NHL offseason. A very significant goaltending injury announced today in the Western Conference, as well as the start of the World Juniors in Canada's first game in front of an incredibly sparse crowd. So all that coming up. Kenny Wiebe's going to join us from Vegas a little bit later on. We'll also touch on a bit of tennis. What a scene it was last night, honoring Serena Williams for her incredible career. She was bounced in the second round at the National Bank Open, and will finish her active playing career as she evolves, not retires, but evolves at the U.S. Open. John Horn's going to jump on as well. We'll get the latest on Felix Auger-Aliassime and Bianca Andreescu, who are still alive in the singles draws on the men's and women's side. So it's going to be a great show. Great to have you all with us. And stick around a little later on. We do have a pair of tickets for the game tonight, which we'll give away to some lucky WST viewer on our YouTube channel later on in the program. Big thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Vita Health, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, Aikens Lake, Culligan Water, Royal Sports, Breezy Bend, Not Auto Corp, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Assiniboia Downs, Canadian Club, and Coolbet Canada. And by the way, just quickly before we get into it, big day, obviously, for the Bombers. Also a big day for our friends Nick and Nicky and the entire Dairy Queen family. Today is Miracle Treat Day. It's always a great time to get a blizzard, but if you needed a little extra excuse to do it today is that day to do it. All proceeds from every blizzard sold go to the Children's Miracle Network and Children's Hospital of Manitoba. 100% of the funds stay in Manitoba. And last year, the group of DQs built and funded a new 8 kg stress room at the Children's Hospital. So the money does really go directly to great use. So great day for a blizzard over at our friends Nick and Nicky DQ. We'll talk about that a little later on. Let's get the show on the road. Welcome everyone with us live on YouTube. And welcome in Michael Remis to the program. Remo, what's up?
Yeah, well, I'm feeling good. What a great day here in our Bomber Blue today. And Bombers, Als, that's what we're the big focus. Great weather, getting ready for a good weekend here. Gold Eyes in town playing well. Enjoying summer, right? Getting some ice cream.
This is what it's all about. Yeah, exactly. Get a blizzard on Miracle Treat Day and head on down and watch the Bombers do what they always do, and that's win football games. Oh, by the way, I've also got a cool bet exclusive bet on the game tonight. If you want to jump on that, we'll tell you about that a little later on. Hey, listen, before we get too much into tonight's game and all the other big stories of the day, did want to just recognize a young man that I think captured the hearts of hockey fans everywhere, and his tragic passing yesterday. Of course, that was Ben Stelter, who, if you were following the Stanley Cup playoffs, was the young, I believe, 5-year-old kid in Edmonton that was dealing with some pretty significant health problems. And, he inspired that fan base. He inspired the team at Edmonton. And it was, I think we've seen pretty much all the teams around the National Hockey League express condolences. It was just... Man, it was probably 10 minutes after we were off the air yesterday where I saw the tweet from his father, Mike. And listen, I mean, I think you sort of knew that if you dug into what he was dealing with, that, unfortunately, this was a possibility. But I'll tell you what, the joy that he brought to so many, including the Edmonton Oilers, and the connection he had with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl was so special, and it just makes you appreciate what you have, because obviously there are people dealing with things that if you're lucky enough not to be dealing with, hopefully you never will. But I just wanted to bring that up. Ben Stelter was a darling of the entire hockey world and inspiration to so many. And Reem, that was a really, really sad thing to hear. And I think it really impacted so many people that, remembered the story and remembered all the incredible scenes of Ben in and around the Oilers team as they had their great playoff run in the spring.
Yeah, he was their good luck charm. I think they went undefeated for a while with him in the building. And I saw the tweet from his dad, and as a young father myself, I couldn't imagine, the pain and what they're going through. But I think you said it so well before, just the joy that he brought to so many during that playoff run, and extremely saddened to see that news. It was right after we finished yesterday, but it's nice to see outpouring of support. I saw many NHL teams responding to the tweet, and McDavid showing, tweeting out the picture as well of them in the dressing room. Yeah, that's a tough situation. Really, really sad to see that yesterday.
I will give a lot of credit to the Oilers organization, McDavid and Draisaitl in particular. I think when they found out about this situation, they really did go above and beyond to try to make every moment for Ben as special as possible. And there were so many of those moments. He was at the game. I mean, the Play La Bamba, baby. I was listening to Gazzola was filling in for Dusty, who's here today to call the game for TSN. And that was playing pretty much all morning today. And, it really did impact the people there in Northern Alberta. And I think people around hockey that, fell in love with that little boy. And obviously just a real sad bit of news yesterday, but I did want to touch that on because I know a lot of people in chat were talking about it. That being said, Reem, we will maybe get to that a little bit more and some of the other big hockey stories with Ken Wiebe, including Robin Lehner out for the season. What does that do for the Vegas Golden Knights? But I got to tell you, as I said, I just saw the tweet from Darren Cameron. This game tonight is going to be wild. And I remember doing the show after the game against the Calgary Stampeders, and we just talked about the incredible atmosphere that has been growing game after game at IG Field. That game in the atmosphere against Calgary, albeit 30-plus degrees, the atmosphere, or the temperature, I guess, was very different than the West Final, but it was about as close as I can remember to it being that. And I think tonight might be even crazier. Here's Darren Cameron's tweet. Just sent a quick note to rockstar Carol Barrett asking how the day was going on the ticket front. Her reply, one word: nuts. Let's go for the W. This team absolutely deserves the support that it's getting right now from fans, Reem, but I mean, step by step, they've continued to build this, and not only are they the best team in the Canadian Football League, not only are they the back-to-back champs, but now are leading the league in attendance, and I think tonight is going to be another special night at IG Field for the Bombers and their fans.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, they're 9-0, a chance at 10-0, historic start to the season. They're putting betting lines out if they can go undefeated. People are starting to realize this is a historic team. It's great weather today. Why not go out to IG Field, take it all in? We saw the great atmosphere. I mean, I think that helps too. That the last home game was a couple weeks ago against Calgary, and everyone left that game saying, "Wow, that was one of the best football games I've ever seen." Bombers were favored by like 11 before. I checked today; it was a bit less. It was a bit less than that. So, but if it's anything like the fourth quarter of last week, well, the Bombers should run away and everyone will be celebrating. But that's not always how it goes. You think one team is way better, maybe it'll be closer. But I think the Bombers should head into the bye. According to the odds makers, they're more likely to than not head into the bye at 10-0, and I think it'll be a celebration and a great night at IG Field when the team wears their do these third jerseys have a name? Like the Jets third, they didn't call the Jets third jerseys; they were aviator blue. It was the other.
I will coin them the back-to-back color rush. Because we've got the stripes for the back-to-back Grey Cups. Mm-hmm. And this is basically the color rush look with the blue on blue.
I'm pulling it up here. Shout out to the Bombers social media team. Is doing a great job letting us know. They had a tweet at the beginning of the year. Here's our uniform schedule for the year.
I know, that was great.
And it was incredible. And I saw people were like, this isn't news. I'm like, yeah, it is news. We want to know what the team is wearing and what they're going to look like. So you got your back-to-back striping on. The Bombers are going to go blue on blue. Really into this look. I think they're going to look sharp tonight. I don't know what Montreal's wearing. They're going white on white. Is that what they do?
You know what? I have not seen the kit for the visitors.
Did they
tonight.
tweet it out? Is their Montreal social media as good as the Jets? Or not the Jets, the Bombers? Although Montreal, they got really snarky last week. I didn't like it.
Yeah, because of the air horns.
Yeah. Here.
Yeah, the Montreal Alouettes. The only thing that I can say is that the Bombers will hopefully welcome them and treat them as poorly as the idiots with the air horns treated everyone that was at the game last week or watching on television, which was...
Imagine sitting through this.
People are triggered. People are triggered just hearing that. And that was 3 hours of that last week against the Alouettes. It was absolutely nuts.
It was absolutely insane. One thing, too, we should mention about the game tonight. And I know the Bombers, I think the 50-50 starting out at 100K pot. So
David's mentioning it's already over 125 Gs. So definitely get a 50-50 ticket if you're there tonight. Listen, I love gambling on pretty much anything. I often won't get the 50-50. Just, I don't know why. I mean, just, it's not ever a priority. I mean, some people, especially in Saskatchewan and Alberta, it's like the first thing you do, you go to the game and get a bunch of 50-50 tickets. Tonight, I'll be getting 50-50 tickets. I would imagine that if it's now at 125K, this will be well in excess of $500,000, I think, by the time we finish. Oh, yeah, I do. Especially when you think about the crowd, the ability to buy online, the fact that people are already talking and buying on it. Someone's leaving with a fat check tonight from that football game, courtesy of this monster 50-50.
Wow. And the best part is now the 50-50, you can just scan the thing in front of your seat and buy it on your phone. And you could do it from home as well. I feel like that's catching on. I don't know if that was catching on as much, early, but people are used to that kind of stuff.
Well, the Jets were doing it. The Jets did a bunch on the road for road games, and I'll be honest, I didn't pay too close attention to see what it got to. But the Bomber games, just the nature of the football schedule, are so much more of an event with only 18 throughout the regular season. I just think that the chances are that this one will be big tonight. So we're going to get to the game with Ed Tait coming up in a few minutes. And don't forget, stick around towards the end of the program. We'll fire out the wheel of winners. And we've got another pair of tickets and a pair of social passes for the game tonight. So we'll get some lucky WST winners that aren't already going to the game in Throw the Blue on and look to see the champs hopefully get to 10-0 tonight. One thing synonymous with massive 50-50s, Reem, has always been the World Junior Hockey Championships. I have a feeling the 50-50 at some of these games in the summer version of the tournament in Edmonton falling far short of expectations, much like the crowds. Did you see the Canada-Latvia game yesterday? Canada won. I believe the score was 5-2. But let's face it, if you turned that game on television, two things stood out. First of all, the way the broadcast started with Cheryl Pounder and Sheldon Kennedy talking, Rick Westhead as well, about the Hockey Canada scandal, what needs to happen going forward. And it was, frankly, amazing to see TSN, which is such a close partner of Hockey Canada, have Cheryl Pounder talking about wondering whether she should take her Hockey Canada jersey off of the wall in her basement. And Sheldon Kennedy very passionately saying a number of things, including the fact that Scott Smith, the head of Hockey Canada, has only been on the job for about a month, technically needs to go. That was weird at one point. And then when you think about how popular this tournament has been over the years, even with it being August, to see 2,000, 2,500 people at the game for a Canada game was absolutely shocking. And I said to you about a month ago, I was really wondering how this event was going to go off. I was already skeptical about it being played in August to begin with. And now with everything else happening around Hockey Canada, I think it, put it even more in a tough position. But it is quite apparent that the combination of all of these influences are going to make this the biggest flop in World Junior history here in Canada. And you wonder what this does. I was having a conversation with a friend that the damage to the World Junior brand right now and Hockey Canada could be so significant that this could maybe fundamentally change how big of an event this is going forward, even at Christmas. I guess time will tell on that. But it is basically friends and family in the building right now, even for the Canada games.
Yeah, I got a picture here on our screen, courtesy of Corey Pronman on Twitter. Yeah, not a lot of people there. It is in August. I think who wants to go, you can either go outside here to a Goldeyes game or a Bomber game for your sporting event. I know Edmonton, we see Dusty and Tom always fired up with the baseball there as well. They got a nice park. But I don't know if going inside to watch hockey in August is really appealing, and then you have all the other stuff. But I think when you tune into the game, well done by TSN at the start of the broadcast, as you mentioned.
They had to do something like that. I mean, there's no way they could throw up Bob McKenzie and O-Dog and just talk about all these great young Canadian players without sort of acknowledging the elephant in the room. And this is not just an elephant in the room. This is frankly a massive black cloud over the entire event and the entire organization. And I really feel for the players. I mean, this is not the atmosphere I think that they expected they'd be getting. Listen, they want the opportunity to play and represent the country. I totally get that. But this is nothing like what they grew up watching. And, we'll see how it affects their play so far. It was sort of an up and down game for the Canadians against Latvia yesterday. They'll be back in action a little later on tonight as well. But it's just sad. I mean, the way that this has all happened. I was very skeptical in the first place about moving the event to this, but I understood, hey, you want to give these kids the opportunity to play. And I think, unfortunately, the real reason why they were doing it, because they had no problem canceling a whole bunch of other IIHF events, was to get money, to pay for, obviously, a lot of losses from the Christmas event. This is just basically going to be a double whammy of massive losses, I think. And, you do wonder what that does to grassroots hockey, the women's programs, sledge programs, all the other things that, inevitably benefit from the windfall of cash that the World Junior Championships normally brings in.
Yeah, one thing I think we should mention as well, and I see people in chat speaking to this, ticket pricing. I think World Junior ticket pricing,
a joke.
The last couple of years, it's gotten out of control. You know what their Thursday's game, Slovakia versus Canada. I mean, look at all the tickets available on I have Ticketmaster up on the screen, but the cheapest ticket, $130, $109. I think we need to realize that this is, a junior tournament in the summer, and maybe act accordingly, and you could fill the seats, and people are kind of, rejecting Hockey Canada for the reasons you mentioned, but also the pricing, I don't think is really inviting people to say, hey, it's not attractive people inside to watch hockey on August 11th. Who the hell is paying
$130 to go in and see a preliminary game in the World Junior Hockey Championships? Well, I mean, honestly, and I go back, I've used this word a few times with Hockey Canada, the hubris that they've shown over the course of the years. I mean, listen, I was part of it. I worked there for a while. Obviously, it was on the women's side and was very different. But you saw the way the World Junior Championship evolved from Red Deer to Winnipeg, then to these events. They ran this organization like a professional team. And you look at the national hockey teams, what are they doing? They're trying to squeeze every red cent out of every fan at every corner. And they've just gone way past anything that's possibly reasonable. And they're seeing the results of that right now. It really is the perfect storm on what unfortunately is a disaster of a tournament. We'll see what Kenny Wiebe has to say about that a little later on. We're going to get to some football, though, with Ed Tait in just a minute. And, hey, big game tonight for the Bombers. Tomorrow, the Goldeyes are back in action. I believe the Goldeyes are playing tonight as well, but tomorrow's the Manitoba Social. But Saturday is the Bark at the Park at the Goldeyes games. We'll try and get Andrew Collier on to tell us about the big weekend coming up for the Fish. But our friends at Wallace & Wallace are sponsoring the Bark in the Park game on Saturday. It's sponsored by Wallace & Wallace. If you and your furry friend will be at the game watching the Goldeyes take on Sioux City, Don't forget to drop by the Walls and Walls photo booth and get your pet portrait done. And while you're there, ask them about their special offer. Bark in the Park ticket holders will get $100 off a chain link dog run or fence. And if you're not in the market for a dog run or have been too busy enjoying the summer to worry about replacing your fence, now's the time to visit them at wallacefences.com. You can use their online calculator to compare costs on wood, vinyl, ornamental, and chain link, or simply give them a call to talk to an expert, or visit them at their showroom on Lawson Road. Looking forward to that game on the weekend. Bark in the Park, always super fun. Well, if you're going out to the ballpark or the game tonight, you won't need to be dressed up, but you are going to come fall when things hopefully continue to get back to normal. And if you're in the market for a new suit, before you do anything, get down to F Apparel. Talk to Andrew and his great staff about all the options on custom suits beginning at $400. Hey, every guy needs at least one suit that fits and looks great, and F will get you looking better than ever. They've got all the accessories as well, and a great deal on shirts through the summer. 3 custom shirts for just $210. Find out more at F Apparel. If you got a wedding party, talk to them about the 15% discount if you and the boys get the suits from F. And of course, you can always visit them downtown at 190 Smith Street. They're online at fepapparel.com. Hey, Vita Health, ready for the weekend. Of course, it's barbecue season right now, and Vita Health not only is stocked with Manitoba's best selection of local, organic, and natural grocery supplements and beauty products, all at great prices, but incredible selections for the grill, including lean bison steaks, chicken, hot dogs, burgers, and more. And if you're entertaining, a great selection of delicious non-alcoholic drinks and cocktails, including Sober Carpenter beers and clever mocktails to take care of your guests for whatever they need. They're, of course, a great local company, been in business for over 85 years, 7 Winnipeg locations. Pop down and see them. Check out the Vita Health Grab and Go Deli as well. But you can also shop online, check out everything they have, schedule a delivery or in-store pickup online at myvita.ca. And again, a big thanks to our friends at Aikens Lake. Had just an amazing weekend fishing there last week. Back to business for us. But if you're thinking about planning an amazing trip, 2 hours from the city, you can be on the water, fly in, off the grid. Aikens Lake is the spot to do it. Not only is the fishing 5-star, but the people are even better. Find out more online at aikenslake.com or hit our pal Pitt Tarrant up on Twitter at Aikens Lake. All right, 30,000 plus, an undefeated football team. It is on tonight at IG Field. Let's welcome in our good friend Ed Tait to get things going. Eddie, what is up? How's the calm before the storm down at IG Field right now?
I'll tell you what, it's buzzing. It's cool, right? I mean, there's a lot going on tonight with expecting a crowd of around 30,000, which is going to be awesome. Weather's perfect. Got the flyby before the game, military appreciation night, the 50-50 pot starting at $100,000. You get $5 beers before kickoff. I mean, if I wasn't working, I'd be all over this one.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of tough to walk into the boss's office and ask for a holiday day on a game day. But listen, this is why we all do it. We can't wait to do it. I have to say, and we'll get to the actual game and the matchup and the rematch of last week's game in a minute, but it just feels, and again, I'm a little more removed from it, but I mean, talking to fans every day, talking about it here on the program, Ed, it sort of feels like this gradual growth, much like the football team did a few years ago, coming from the middle of the road to being better to being the best. That is really sort of now followed with the fan base, the crowds. I mean, that Calgary game now it's almost a month ago, which is sort of maybe another reason why people are so excited to get back there, was an atmosphere that was different than the West Final, but for a regular season game was about as good as I can remember here in Winnipeg. Maybe outside the return post-pandemic of the game against the Ticats. I imagine this is going to be even better tonight. And this team deserves it, but everything's going the Bombers' way. And it seems like people, for the most part, even very casual fans, are realizing that they better get in because if they, much like the people that missed out last game, they really missed an incredible night if they weren't at the park.
It's a real good point, Huss. This team kind of prides itself on this is a big game because it's the next game. Just go 1-0 this week. But you and I have talked about this before. It's time for us to kind of embrace this moment we're in, right? As fans, as people that love live sports, this is a special run for the Bombers. You know, 2-time Grey Cup champions. They're on this 9-0 run. Haven't been 10-0 to start a season since 1960. You know, these are all historic things, and everybody knows the struggles this franchise had in the Grey Cup drought from 1990 until 2019. You know, when this building first opened, it was great to be here. It was still such a beautiful park, but the Bombers hardly ever won here, right? They were 7-23 in their first 30 games at IG Field. So I think now everybody just appreciates the fact that, you know, the streak's going to end. But when you come here, we saw it in the West Final too. It doesn't matter if it's plus 30 or minus 30. People are going to have a good time. It's a good place to check the game out, and by and large, the Bombers have a real good chance of winning because they've been so dominant lately. So, for all the hard times that Bomber fans have been through, let's soak this all up and enjoy it because it's pretty freaking special.
Well,
Glad I put myself there.
we've got a heck of a day today for a football game. We have an undefeated team. And we've got a fan base that I think is all in on this club, and I just can't wait to get out there. By the way, folks, if you don't have a seat, I do have a couple. We'll do a special giveaway later on, so make sure to stay with us until the end of the program. All that being said, Eddie, had the great Milt Stiegel on the show a couple days ago, and obviously we were gushing over what the Bombers have done and what a special team it is and how they got there. But he did say, and this was interesting, the biggest threat to the Bombers on the schedule is bye week. He thought that, you know, they're clearly the better team. We've seen what they've done throughout. They're a heavy favorite tonight in the game. But that, you know, with finally the end of this incredible run of scheduled and so many football games in such a short period of time, guys could be looking ahead. That being said, he also couched it with regular teams maybe, but that doesn't really seem like a Mike O'Shea team would be doing that. And I guess they've sort of earned the benefit of the doubt with the way they've been so consistently excellent so far.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that theory, and Milt would have lived it about how a team reacts the game before the bye week. You know, a crappy team can't wait to get out of town, so guys would probably come to the game night with their bags packed and have their suitcases right by their locker, which would be a horrible look, right? I mean, Mike O'Shea would probably cut you on the spot if he saw that. So it depends on the team. That issue, that topic came up a couple times this week, and if you ask Mike O'Shea about it, you just get daggers thrown back at you, right, with that stare of his. I just don't think this team is thinking that. I think they like winning. They like being around. I don't know what the numbers are. I'm sure lots of guys are getting out of town, but I bet you there's quite a few guys that are just going to stay in town because they like hanging out with each other. So it will be interesting to see what happens in the second and third bye later in the season. This is the first one after this crazy, crazy start to the season. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if a lot of guys just want to sleep in Friday morning and get up and spend Saturday and Sunday doing nothing. So it will be very interesting. That's something to keep an eye on tonight to see how sharp Winnipeg is, knowing that tomorrow begins a bit of a break for them.
Listen, no one's beaten them so far, and they get a big boost to the lineup in the return of Greg Ellingson, who the last time we saw in that game against Calgary had his best game as a Bomber and was, you know, incredibly important in that game. It's been great to see guys like Dalton Schoen, Rashid Bailey getting more into it, Wolatarski in the back, but fill us in on how Ellingson looked and what his return to the lineup will do for Zach Collaros.
Well, he looks like he always looks. He's just so smooth. Everything with him is effortless. And, you know, getting him back is massive. What was impressive in the 3 games he was out with it was how other guys stepped up. And you mentioned them all. One of my favorite stats is second down conversions for a receiver, because it means that he's moving the chains and all that stuff to stay on the field. But it also means that the quarterback when things maybe break down, that's where his first look is. And Greg Ellingson was leading the CFL in all kinds of categories, including that one before he got hurt. So that's going to be an important thing for him to be back tonight. But what really impressed me in his absence was how a guy like Drew Olatarski stepped up and was the second down conversion guy. Rasheed Bailey was that guy in a few games. Of course, Dalton Schoen has been doing it all along. But, Nick Dembski's been back for a couple games now. They look a lot more potent with everybody on board on offense. And maybe that helps tonight in to take away some of the uncertainty we saw last week when Montreal is bringing as much pressure as they did, forced Zach Collaros into some mistakes, but maybe having Ellingson out there is his safety net in those circumstances. And so it's another thing to keep an eye on tonight.
I'll say that in his absence, the best development for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, not that they needed many more, was the emergence of the running game and Brady Oliveira. And it was interesting, Ed, and I know you were there to hear Brady speak about, how tough it was earlier in the season to hear some of the second guessing, the questioning of, his role in the team. Obviously, Andrew Harris not being here anymore is a pretty big loss, and a guy that was important to the fan base, important to the club. And the expectations were much higher because of the role that he was coming into. But I'll tell you what, he seems to be hitting his groove right now. He's been breaking some big plays that weren't there earlier in the season. And as we talked with Stanley Bryant earlier this week on the program as well, it seems like it isn't just Brady that's elevated his game. It's the connection between he and an offensive line that is feeling more and more comfortable in asserting themselves on that line of scrimmage, and the results have spoken for themselves. And that's huge for the passing game as well.
Oh, it's massive that the run game has found some traction. A couple weeks ago, he had a real good game against Edmonton. The numbers might not have been there, but the average per rush were really good. And then in the Calgary win in Calgary, after the game, that's the first time we heard him be so candid about how some of the outside criticism was bothering him, especially as a Winnipeg guy. It's a storybook, right, for a Winnipeg guy to replace a Winnipeg guy who's going to the Hall of Fame. And then this week, he spoke of some of the conversations he had in the first Calgary game here, where he only had 8 yards rushing. During the game, Kevin Burgoyne, the receivers coach, who was Brady's running backs coach last year, told him, just be yourself, run the way you want to run. And Jason Hogan, the new running backs coach, gave him an uplifting speech too in the last few weeks. So those are all important, but sometimes we forget that Brady hasn't started a lot of games in this league. And, he might not have the level of confidence that we expect from a guy that's, a pro athlete. These guys read social media as much as some of them say they want to block out the noise. I think Brady was hurt by that stuff. And we forget he's still a young guy, still trying to figure this out. So all those conversations helped. And then, look, the production is there too. He's running like the Brady that we saw flashes of last year. We had a couple 100-yard games. He's just a north-south guy. He can put his helmet into somebody's chest and plow them back 5 yards. And now that he's got his confidence boost and some consistency, I think we're starting to see what Brady Oliveira could bring to this offense on a regular basis.
Well, and listen, I know it wasn't consistent at the beginning of the season, and I've said this a number of times. The running attack in the first quarter of the game in BC, to me, was the pivotal thing that allowed the Bombers to do what they did offensively with Zach Collaros just carving them up for the next 3 quarters. And the road game in Calgary was the same thing. The ability to run the football was so important, Ed. And it certainly gives Zach a better look. Mill talk about that. All the guys want is to be able to get into one-on-one situations and beat their guy. But the next wrinkle, and I give Buck Pierce a lot of credit for the way he's putting this offense together, we saw McRae get a few of those sort of jet sweeps that often we've saw with Nick Dembski in the past. And now they've got Janarian Grant involved in the offensive game. And the jets that he has on him, if you can get the ball into his hands, it's a potential 6 every time he's got it.
Yeah, there was a play last week in the Montreal win. Maybe that's what you're referring to, Huss, where he caught like a swing pass in the backfield, and there was an Alouette guy right in front of him, and it had -5 written all over it. And he caught the ball, and it's not like he made an incredible, like Charles Roberts type deke on a guy. He just caught it, and all of a sudden he found that gear and blew by a guy. And it's interesting because Nick Dembski's smart player, and he's really effective on those jet sweeps. We saw Greg McRae have some success with it. But the one thing Janarian Grant has on everybody on this team is that speed. And if you can get him into open spaces, we saw it again last week in Montreal. I thought that was one of his best games as a Blue Bomber. He was dynamic. And it's just another wrinkle. You're right. Buck Pierce has done some pretty cool things with this offense this year, considering there's been games without Nick Dembski. We've been games without Greg Ellingson. They had Carlton Agadosi for a game, and now he's gone. Like, there's been a lot of change up front with this on offense with this team. And credit to Buck Pierce for coming up with some wrinkles just to make them harder to defend against.
Ed Tait of BlueBombers.com with us, getting ready for kickoff tonight, 30,000 plus at IG Field. If you haven't already counted yourself in, you still have time to do it, and we'll hope to see you there. It's easy to focus on the great game that Oliveira had. I sort of jokingly put together my 3 stars when we were talking about this game on the weekend, and Oliveira and Grant were there on the offensive side. But the guy that really stood out to me, Ed, was Winston Rose. And Winston Rose had a tough start to the season. I mean, got victimized a couple times early on in the Ottawa games. He locked down Eugene Lewis, one of the best receivers in the Canadian Football League, and was a huge part of that game from a defensive side. What have you seen from Rose and the way his season has progressed till his performance last week?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Huss. He did struggle early on in the year, and I had a conversation with him when those struggles were going on about how, and he was pretty critical of himself. To me, last week he started to look more like the 2019 Winston Rose, the lockdown corner. And again, maybe it's confidence. Maybe you get burned a few times and you start to play tentative, or you're not as aggressive. And when you're a defensive back or a corner, that's a really dangerous combination, because you're going to give up lots of yards over top or in front of you because you're afraid of getting burnt deep. But to me, last week looked an awful lot like the Winston Rose we've come to expect. He was a game changer. He did a great job on Lewis, who still had 15 targets. Eugene Lewis has been targeted 30 times in the last 2 games. That's an incredible number. And maybe it speaks of how one-dimensional Montreal's offense is without William Stanback. But back to Rose, he looks dynamic, and if they can get him to be consistent again like he is, and you've got Dietrich Nichols and Nick Taylor in there, and then sort of the emergence of Demario Houston has been really impressive. And Brandon Alexander's running and getting closer every day. I had a long chat with him the other day. When he gets back, that secondary becomes that much more deadly to try to throw against.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And Ed, I mean, we kind of mentioned that bye week that's on just around the corner. And I know Mike O'Shea will not want anyone thinking about that bye week until the final tick is off the clock tonight. And hopefully the Bombers are 10-0. But if they're able to get to 10-0, considering what they've been through right now, I mean, 8 remaining games, 5 at home where they haven't lost in a long time, and 3 bye weeks mixed in. I mean, it's almost the perfect scenario when you realize the ultimate goal through the regular season, first things first, win the West, and have either the BC Lions or Calgary Stampeders or Riders, whoever makes it through, have to come in and win a football game in the cold in November at IG Field to get the Grey Cup.
It's funny, when the Bombers were going through this awful stretch of the schedule, 10 weeks, they're the last team that to have a bye. We had the 6 games in 32 days, which is incredible. 5 of 6 on the road, 3 in a row on the road. When we were talking about this and bringing us out every week as a narrative for us here in Winnipeg and on our website in particular, I was hearing some things from people in Vancouver and Calgary saying, yeah, but wait a minute. Once you guys get through this, look at that second half of the season. So everybody in Winnipeg's crying about how unfair the schedule is, but the rest of the league might be crying about how advantageous it is to Winnipeg in the second half of the season. I think you're onto something, Huss. If you lock down a home playoff game, hopefully it's hosting the West Final again. There's so many benefits of that. There's the financial benefit for the club. But then you got potentially, let's say it's BC, a dome team, a team that's used to playing on the West Coast where, when it gets to freezing, everybody's, looking for help from the government and the military's coming in. So if you get a team like that coming to Winnipeg and it's minus 30, we'll call it home ice advantage, right? For home game in Winnipeg. And then I think it's just part of this team's you practice every day. Coach O'Shea wants you to be mentally tough as much as you're physically tough. All those things are arrows pointing upward for this team. But you're right. Get through tonight first, and then you really got to feel good about yourself, because some of these other teams are going to start beating up on each other too in the next few weeks, because they didn't have much traction other than what Eugene Lewis did against the Bomber offense. So Anthony Calvillo's got his hands full trying to solve this dark side defense. But you can expect Montreal to try to do something. It is tough to sweep in this league, but I think that Winnipeg's going to be far better prepared tonight necessarily than they were last week.
And the kicking game has been a topic for the last couple of years, and LoMoglio had that great start, sort of fell off in the second half of the BC game and the following game. But from my perspective, he has been very impactful over the course of the last couple of games. And for a young player, I mean, it's pro sports. Your best game has to be your next game. But where would you say the confidence level is in the job that LoMoglio is doing for both punting and kicking now that we're into the second half of the season?
It is the confidence level is growing with every kick for him. He's kicking at over 90%, second best in the league on his field goal tries. Look, it's tough to replace. We've seen it with Brady Oliveira. It's tough to replace a future Hall of Famer, and Justin Medlock's going to the Hall of Fame. I talked to Paul Boudreau, their special teams coach, this week, and when the Bombers drafted Mark LoMoglio, they thought they would have a year of him learning under Justin Medlock, and then the pandemic hit, and that was lost. So I think that LoMoglio needed that year last year. Maybe the struggles helped him kind of lock in, focus, get his routine, because it's different in the pros and in college, right? And he's done a really good job. And one of the things that is really getting better, it's for him, it's all about putting the ball between the uprights, but his punting is getting an awful lot better. We saw that was some critical kicks last week in the win over Montreal, where he put it inside the 10-yard line, and then the Montreal returner Newman made that one horrible mistake to bring it out, and they got trapped deep in their own end. But his directional punting's getting a lot better, and I think the confidence level in him is growing and growing and growing. Now, those things grow exponentially when you hit a game winner, right, with no time on the clock, and if it's over 40 yards, and that's the kind of kick that gets the whole bench, leaving the sidelines to lift the guy up on their shoulders. So we haven't seen an awful lot of that with Mark LoMoglio, but I think as he gets more and more consistent, they won't be afraid to trot him out there for some of those long ones if they get in those kind of circumstances.
I'm glad you mentioned the punting, because on a team like this with the defense the way they have, I mean, that is so important. I mean, the ability to say, oh, no problem, we'll give you the ball, but you're going to be starting way deep in your own end. And more often than not, the Bombers are getting the ball back quite quickly afterwards. And, we focus on the big kicks, the points, the winning and losing of the games, but there's so much that goes into that job, and I think LoMoglio is really doing a good job. Hey, Ed, before we go, got a couple people asking. You mentioned Brandon Alexander, who was doing some sprinting, which is great. How optimistic are they on BA as well as Couture as potential returns in the second half of the season?
I talked to both those guys just casually this week. I think that Brandon Alexander, we're probably looking at Banjo Bowl or around that for his return. I'm not sure about Michael Couture yet. He had, he's got almost a brace on his one arm. Neither one is practicing yet. That's always the sign, right? When they get back on the field and they've got shoulder pads and helmets on, that's the sign that they're close. So, they're coming along. Let's put it that way. And while we have the chance, we should probably salute Chris Kolinkowski for the work he's done replacing Coach.
I was just going to ask you about him. I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't even familiar with him, at training camp going into the season. And, we started to see him on the chart. Stanley Bryant talked about him on the program, how impressed they've been and how well he's sort of fit in this group. Because as established as they've been, injuries will come up. And I mean, he has absolutely acquitted himself well. And it seems like the O-line as a group has really gelled and is playing their best football of the season.
Yeah, so Zach Collaros raves about Kolinkowski because of the homework he does, and the center's got to make all the calls on what they're seeing. He's kind of a brawler, right? He's just a guy that battles up there, and he fits the O-line group so perfectly. He has really done a good job. And I know what you mean, Huss. When the season started, not a lot of people knew about this guy, but he's been solid. He dressed last year when Eli was the one guy that wasn't getting vaccinated, so he got into the lineup, and there's something about him. He's just he's a brawler. And then the Bombers are essentially on their third different safety now because BA's been out. You had Malcolm Thompson come in and do a pretty good job, and now Nick Hallett's done a really good job in replacing Thompson. So it just shows you the depth, and sometimes you don't always get it right. But man, you look at the guys that come into the lineup and make contributions. Agadowski. I mean, last week Ricky Walker, the defensive tackle, was a monster. He'd been sitting on the sidelines for a few weeks. So this is one of the deepest teams I've ever covered, and I've been around this bunch for quite a while. So it's just cool to see guys like Kolinkowski who wait so long, get in there and make something happen.
Eddie, let's get ready for tonight. A Princess Auto kickoff 7:30.
Yes, sir.
7:30 kickoff. Princess Auto tailgate zone will be getting going a couple hours beforehand. We'll have some $5 beers, some $3.50 hot dogs, pop, prizes from the Princess Auto crew. DJ Finesse will be spinning. So the pregame's taken care of. And then you mentioned military night, the flyover kickoff. And I mean, from the sounds of it right now, Ed, I mean, we're going to have one of the best home crowds really since IGF opened. And I got to say, I think the atmosphere for this club, the excitement about it, what they've done so far is going to be felt tonight. And this is going to show very well for our city and our team tonight, coast to coast on the tube.
Yeah, I know. I got some relatives and friends that sometimes watch a game on TV that aren't in Winnipeg, and they say, boy, they announced a crowd of 28. It sure didn't look like 28. And I say, well, yeah, but you got to pull the camera out and look at the rum hut and look at that end. And when they don't mess around with the attendance here. It's not an announced crowd. It's what comes through the turnstiles. And it's just, I tell you what, if you haven't been, you got to get down here to experience it once. It's a lot of fun. And when it's like this, the weather's perfect. You don't have to wear 19 layers just to stay alive. So get down here and check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, the 50-50 pot starts at $100,000. So there's a lot of little side stuff that's going to make this fun even beyond the game itself.
Well, and you mentioned, folks coming out and just trying a game for the first time. I had a feeling that there was a lot of people in that situation at the Calgary game on the 15th of July. And I think that night was so much fun and the game was that good that a lot of those people are coming back for this game tonight and cannot wait for it. Ed, thanks so much for the time. Good luck to the squad. And hopefully the next time you're on with us, we'll be talking about double digits in the win column and a big fat 0 in the loss column.
Right on. Sounds good. Huss, thanks for having me on. Have a good day. Enjoy it tonight, people.
You got it. Cannot wait. There it is. Ed Tait, BlueBombers.com. Check out all the great coverage post-game at BlueBombers.com. And, of course, tomorrow with all of Ed's work heading into the bye week coming out of the 10th game of the season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. All right. We're going to hook up with Wiebe coming up in just a couple of minutes. But I'm not sure if it'll be too hot today, but certainly we need to be hydrated, folks. I know you're going to be having a few pops tonight at the game. And when we think of hydration, water, you think Culligan here in Winnipeg. 65 years as a family-run business serving Winnipeg and southern Manitoba with water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, drinking water systems, and citywide water delivery services, not to mention commercial and industrial water products and solutions. Whether you need for the home, your cottage, or the office, Culligan is there for you. 1200 Sargent Avenue, 694-5180, and online at drinkculligan.com. Well, as you can see, the new jerseys are on tonight for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. If you're heading to the game, heading down Pembina, and you realize, geez, maybe I need to spice up the blue in my wardrobe, hit Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, the #1 spot for licensed team merchandise for whatever team you're looking for. Bombers, Jets, or your favorite team from around all the major professional leagues. And while you're there, check out the massive $1 million hockey inventory, the bikes that continue to come in by the week, soccer, softball, baseball, fitness, shoes, disc golf even. They've got it all at Royal Sports. And, of course, all the cool stuff on the Kings skate, snow, and surf side as well. 750 Pembina Highway. Follow them on Insta at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. I know the Knot Gang's fired up for the game. We had Milt Stiegel, a Knot ambassador for many years on the program earlier this week. and they will be representing tonight, I'm sure, in the Loge. Not Autocorp, big sponsors, the Bombers, but also the place to start any search for a new vehicle here in Manitoba. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Knott team? Pop down and see them, Waverly and McGillivray, or check them out online at knott.ca. And hey, if you're tailgating in the parking lot or with some friends beforehand, what could make a night better than a few 1919s from Little Brown Jug? That being said, they've got all sorts of summer beers, and the beers right now are on tap as well at Craft Beer Corner at the ballpark for the Winnipeg Goldeyes, who are home this weekend. So add a Little Brown Jug to the weekend. Thank me later. Check them out at the spot downtown in the Exchange, the brewery and tap house on William Avenue, which, by the way, will be the spot where we do our first sports trivia night with Winnipeg Sports Talk and Little Brown Jug on September 1st. Save the date. Next week, I'll have information for you, how you can reserve your spots. We're going to do an Eventbrite group. You'll be able to get tickets, and essentially each ticket, the cost of it will just basically be your first beer. But with numbers, we're thinking there'll be a lot of people that are into this. We just want to make sure we've got everyone taken care of and accounted for so we can max out the building. So September 1st, Little Brown Jug. I'll be hosting. Cannot wait for that. And I also can't wait for an LBJ before the game tonight. All right. Still to come, your chance to win some tickets to the game. We're also going to be talking a little tennis. Big night last night with Serena Williams. Finishing up her time north of the border as she got bounced from the event. But we're going to hook up with Kenny Wiebe right now in Las Vegas. This time via the phone, not the usual video call, although Ken has notoriously had some great walk-alongs with us when he's been on the road and joining us. But we're going to be giving him a call the old-fashioned way on the horn. Well, apparently he's blowing us off right now, folks. We just got Ken's message. I'm not sure. Remo, you can come in. I'll take people behind the scenes. Ken is in Vegas, although he said, no, definitely in for the show today. But according to the CTO, Wiebe's world, a little difficult today. We're having a tough time getting him. Where is he? He's out for breakfast right now. I'm not sure. Ken's a pretty straight shooter, but this has maybe a late night in Vegas written all over it, Remis. I can't help but be quite suspicious.
I've been texting Ken. He said, okay, I can do 150. No, has to be later. Oh, no, I can do 150. So I've been just texting with him back and forth. And then I crashed the stream. I was texting him, so I messed up during Ed. But here, let me just call him. He says he's ready now. So I got to figure out.
Oh, okay. Okay, excellent. We'll try to get him in there as well. Listen, while we do that, quick couple news and notes from the World Junior Hockey Championship. Right now, end of the first, Czechia 2, Finland 1. Later on today, it's Canada against Slovakia. And then the USA versus Switzerland later on tonight. Oh, if this isn't the world traveler, Ken Wiebe, joining us live on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Geez, I guess on the phone today, we weren't going to get a walking tour of Las Vegas. Actually, nothing could top you walking to Orlando for a haircut during the Stanley Cup Final. So I guess we have it. How are things there? What's going on?
Huss, great to be with you. Sorry for the shakeup. Apparently, I have trouble with both the Pacific time zone and managing my own schedule. So I thought it would be poolside currently in Vegas, but it's time for brunch at Hash House A Go-Go here. So my apologies for not having the photo up, but I've been driving around Vegas on the Gus bus for the last couple of days here. So
Yes.
hope that our listeners and viewers can bear with us.
Yeah, well, as long as you're not taking Gus to Vegas, that's fine. And I will say, while we were trying to get you on, all of this time switch and trying to get it, I was somewhat skeptical because, let's face it, this had an extremely late night in Vegas written all over it. However, you sound to be very astute, very together, so that's obviously that was not the case. All that being said, Ken, I do want to get to...
I have to say, Huss, quick one. We were at Nine Fine Irishmen yesterday. I would say a made curfew, but it was after 1 a.m. So we had a great dinner. Stacy's youngest sister and husband were celebrating their 9th anniversary, so it was a beautiful steak dinner at STK at the Cosmopolitan, and followed up by a great Irish house band at Nine Fine Irishmen inside New York. So, a nice little tour. The golf tour took a deep breath for Vegas after the ball trip, and it's been great. Even caught up with the sheriff yesterday, so it was a very productive trip here.
Beautiful. Well, listen, we'll talk about what's happening in Vegas because there's some big news in the National Hockey League out of there right now. But you mentioned the Gus bus. David Gustafsson re-ups a 2-year deal at $775. I mean, I think some real possibility to have some massive value for the team, especially in year 2. And of course, Mason Appleton avoiding arbitration with that 3-year deal. Had a great conversation with Mason yesterday. He seems fired up. But the RFA business is done for Kevin Cheveldayoff right now. First things first, what did you make of the 2 signings?
Yeah, Huss, I mean, I think we were talking about the Jets needing more from the bottom 6 in that complementary offensive role. I think Mason Appleton is a guy that can provide, double digits in goals again next year. Obviously, his numbers were a bit down last year in the combined season with Seattle and Winnipeg, but I do expect Mason to get back. I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be an 18-goal pace like when he had the 12 goals in 56 games, but I expect him to be a double-digit guy. I think that he and Adam Lowry have had great chemistry, yes, in the one season, that season specifically that I referenced. But I think the biggest thing for me with that line is that they lacked an identity last year. So to me, right out of the gate, no matter who's playing on the left side, whether it's Morgan Barron, whether it's Jansen Harkins, whether it's someone like Sonny Milano that gets picked up as a free agent or via trade, that line will have a distinct identity. I think they'll be looking for more of a natural finisher to complement those guys. All the guys that I mentioned would fit that role. But Appleton is a smart addition. At that number, you bought 2 years of unrestricted free agency. Yes, some people are like, oh, well, it's $2 million. Well, hey, it could be a value contract if he's a double-digit guy. If he ends up being a fourth-line player, well, then you overpaid slightly. But to me, Mason Appleton never wanted to leave Huss, and the Jets never wanted to have him leave. So to have him locked up for 3 years and buying 2 years of UFA status, after seeing how it transpired with Andrew Kopp, who was a guy that was a homegrown talent, I think that was important. I mean, Appleton is a 6th-round pick who is a hit. I mean, this is a guy who's become an NHL regular as a late bloomer. So taking care of that right out of the gate, I mean, do I expect Mason Appleton to be on the second power play like he was at times? No, but he could fill in that role if necessary. In terms of Gustafsson, to me, Huss, I've been driving the bus for a long time. At minimum, he's the Jets' 4th-line center next year. And maybe he's the kind of guy, if they're going to use the Lowry line as a distinct shutdown role, which I'm not necessarily saying they would, I could see Gustafsson moving to the wing with those 2 guys that we mentioned as well. But as of right now, I would expect he's the 4th-line center. And again, Gustafsson's not a 4th-line center. That's not his ceiling. That's how he's going to break into the NHL, but that's where he'll get his feet wet. But to me, I think that eventually he can be a, middle 6 kind of player that can also provide kind of double digits in offense. And the thing about Gustafsson that we know, Huss, he makes the guys around him better. So he may not have eye-popping offensive numbers, but he can score and he can distribute the puck, and he's incredibly conscientious defensively. And for a team that needs better penalty killing, both Gustafsson and Appleton will fill those roles admirably.
Ken, let me ask you, I mean, it's pretty clear right now, at least the way the roster looks as of today, that there's a very clear delineation between the top 6 and the bottom 6. You've got Scheifele Dubois, Connor Ehlers, Perfetti Wheeler in that top 6, and then, presumably Appleton along with Lowry sort of anchoring that 3rd line. We've talked for a long time that at some point, if Blake Wheeler plays throughout his contract, there might be some less minutes or maybe a reduced role in the hierarchy of it. But right now, there doesn't seem to be anyone knocking on the door. My question for you, though, is with Appleton's penchant for being very good on the forecheck and puck retrieval in the offensive zone, might there be a spot if they wanted to sort of balance the lines a little bit more for a fit with Mason Appleton on one of those top 2 lines as a guy that's almost more of a digger to get the puck to some of those players that, have a little bit more offensive pop, but doing it in the offensive zone in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's always possible. And I think at some point during the 3-year contract, you could see that. I don't see that as being the case out of the gate. Like I said, I mean, the Jets' 3rd line lacked an identity. Let's look at Rick Bonus's history with Radek Faksa. His line was the distinct checking line. So to me, Appleton and Lowry represent 2/3 of the checking line. I mean, I do expect there to be some offense to their left. But and at some point, could you see it? Of course. But this is the thing. I mean, I don't agree with the crowd that says Adam Lowry should be your fourth line center, because Lowry has produced double digits in goals 4 times. I mean, does he need to get his point totals up to be, considered more of a third line player? Sure. But I think it's more about what that line gives up than what they get. But they're also going to need to have at least 2 of those guys on the line will need to be double digit goal scorers. And if all 3 are double digit goal scorers, then they're already going to have their own balance from that in itself. But I mean, if the Jets signed Evan Rodriguez per se, then there could be a possibility that there's a little bit more of an even distribution of the ice time. So I understand people are, pretty set. Some people only see Adam Lowry as a checker. We know he had a slow first half last year. There's no doubt about that. The numbers back that up. But I mean, Adam Lowry had a really good second half. And he still ended up.
He was
with
awesome
after
the All-Star break.
Right. So for me, if you get 2 seasons like that from Adam Lowry, I'm not saying he's going to be a 20-goal guy, but he could easily be a 15-goal guy. And if he's a 15-goal, 40-plus point guy, then you're already getting that. I can't say this. I am screaming from the top of the mountaintop. Adam Lowry is not going to be a fourth-line player for the Winnipeg Jets. They did not make that investment in him long-term to be that. He's far more valuable than just playing fourth-line minutes at 9 to 11 minutes. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So could there be more of a balance like there was in the 2018 run? For sure. But I would even say then too, Huss. I mean, for the people saying that Adam Lowry's line was the fourth line in that playoff, that's not accurate. They were the third line, and Brian Little was down to the fourth line in terms of the minute distribution. So to me, Adam Lowry's not going back to be a fourth line player throughout the duration of his contract. Will his minutes be adjusted somewhat if they can add another centerman? I mean, or if Gustafsson pushes in terms of needing more minutes, for sure. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be top 6, bottom 6, but I don't know that there will be as much juggling as some people would like. But that's not to say that Rick Bowness isn't going to try new things. I mean, part of the reason he was brought in was to try new things and to shift some of the minutes around and to reduce Blake Wheeler's minutes somewhat. And that's not to say Blake can't be a contributor if he's still here. But I don't think we're going to see Blake Wheeler rolling at 22 minutes a night. So that will provide some of the balance that you talked about. But in terms of the distinct top 6, bottom 6, I mean that will still remain to be seen. I'm very curious to see how training camp goes, and maybe there's a surprise in training camp. Maybe there's a guy on a PTO. Maybe the Finnish guy that they signed can be more of a player than we anticipate because he hasn't been in the NHL in 3 or 4 years. So, and I also think too, Huss, I cannot be more clear on this message. I think the Jets will still be making a move or two before training camp. I mean, especially on the back end, that still has not been, taken care of, and I expect that it will. Who's coming back the other way? Who knows? But I still think that there will be some tinkering to be done with the roster. I'm not saying it will be major surgery, but I'm thinking that the roster today will not look the same as it does on September 19th or whatever the date is.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I hope you're right on that. I mean, I think there's obvious, we've been talking about a number of things that you would hope that this team would be able to accomplish throughout the offseason that hasn't happened yet. Do you think it's more likely that the Jets add to their forward group via using some of their funds for remaining unrestricted free agents, Ken? Or is it more likely that now they've got their RFA set and they pretty much know where they are salary-wise, they use some of the salary cap space to take advantage of a team that is in a real bind when it comes to the cap, and there's plenty of those teams right now?
Oh, for sure, Hudson. I mean, the domino effect here is a real thing, right? So, depending on what happens with Nazem Kadri, if that Islanders deal does come to fruition, and if it does come in a $7 million number, well, now you look at the Islanders as having a little bit, their glut or their excess will be at the forward position. So what does that mean for Josh Bailey? What does that mean for Anthony Beauvillier? Guys of that nature, maybe they're on the move at some point. I mean, look what happened with Carolina. They thought they were getting a 40-goal scorer in Max Pacioretty. Now he's basically done for either the majority of the season or the entire season after the torn Achilles. So there are still teams, Huss, that here's the thing. The staring contest is on in full force. It's tough to determine who's going to be the winner because we have a lot of people kind of in a holding pattern when it comes to their rosters. But the biggest thing for me, we still don't know which of those teams are going to be cap ceiling teams. We expect the Jets to be a cap ceiling team. That's what Kevin Cheveldayoff has made clear. But is it possible the Jets want to save some of that space for down the road? Sure, it's possible. But to me, even though they believe in their core, I think that money is better served being used on a player that can help them from game one rather than waiting till game 40 or 50. But I mean, again, they may have some plans to try to promote from within that we are not unaware of. So I still think they're going to look at signing one of those bargain or value free agents, or look at a trade, like you said. I mean, there's a lot of teams that want to reduce salary, and right now salary cap space is king in the NHL. And there's a bunch of teams that wish they had more of it. And right now the Jets are not an LTIR like they have in the last couple of seasons. And they have the flexibility to add and make some maneuvers. But it's going to take a little bit of creativity. But that's what I say. I think there's still a move to come, and it will probably be one of those moves that involves the creativity. How big a move that is, I mean, remains to be seen. But I'm still expecting there to be some movement here before training camp.
Yeah, the more I look at this, I mean, with the fact that the glut on the blue line hasn't been addressed, I can't help but think, Ken, that one of those defensemen could be on the move to a team, and in return comes a forward back that very highly likely probably makes more money than the defenseman that they just traded. And you've got a little bit of a hit to the cap space in that trade. A team maybe gets a little bit of cap relief in it, but the Jets are getting a player at a position that they have far bigger needs at, and that, of course, is up front as opposed to what's happening on defense.
Oh, bang on, Hustle. I mean, too, I mentioned the Islanders just as one example. I'm not saying that the Jets are actively in talks with the Islanders, but I mean, let's connect the dots here. So if the Islanders are looking at Kadri at around $7 million, I mean, Scott Mayfield, I think, is a year away from unrestricted free agency. I mean, would a guy like Dylan DeMello or a guy like Brendan Dillon make some sense? And if Josh Bailey's going back the other way, I think Josh Bailey's a $5 million player in terms of his AAV. So both of those defensemen I mentioned earlier are at 3 and 3.9. So that would represent some relief. I don't know if it's enough relief for them, but that's the kind of deal we would be talking about. I mean, to me, it reminds me of I know people were up in arms, but the year when the Jets were actively involved in discussions with Carolina, when Nikolai Ehlers' name came up, the reason, obviously it didn't happen, and for good reason, but when you're looking at a guy like Brett Pesce who made less money and had term, I mean, that's the kind of deal that you would be looking at. I mean, obviously the Jets are thrilled they did not make that move, but those are the kind of deals that would be on the table. But the thing is, most of those contending teams don't have a player that they're trying to get rid of in order to shed salary. But in a lot of cases, they may not have a choice. So, but how close are you pushed against the wall, and when do you have to make that move? I mean, like I said, that's where we're at with the steering contest portion. I mean, a lot of teams are saying, well, no, my player's worth this. And the other team is saying, well, no, you don't have any room for that player, so he's worth this. So right now, I think you got a bunch of GMs that are wanting to make moves that have sort of resisted the urge so far. But, I mean, injuries happen and other things happen. So, like I said, even though the calendar is not quite back on schedule and we're getting closer, I'm still expecting there to be, it's not a quiet August. I think there's going to be some action happening. Whether it's not, this month, it'll be early in September. I still think a bunch of teams need to get a bunch of business done. And the Jets, I think, are one of those teams.
Ken Wiebe with us from Vegas, where he is gallivanting and continuing the summer of Kenny. Speaking of Vegas, I'm sure you're aware, Robin Lehner out for the season for the Vegas Golden Knights. It's somewhat incredible, Ken, that this team went from arguably the best goaltending tandem in the league to now Logan Thompson, Laurent Brossoit, and Michael Hutchinson. I know this is sort of late breaking news, but what do you think this does to Vegas, both in the short term going into the season and their chances of contending once again next year if they don't add to that position?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, having Marc-Andre Fleury and Leonard was a big benefit for them. I mean, and they talked about the need for, Kelly McCrimmon's talked about the need for a long time about having a goalie split that is important. To me, the biggest thing for the Vegas Golden Knights, I'm not disregarding the goaltending position. The health of Mark Stone has got to be the most important thing after the back surgery. And then secondly, how Jack Eichel, now that he's got his sea legs underneath him after having the spinal fusion surgery, how does he come back? I mean, Jack Eichel could be a top 5, point producer in the National Hockey League this year, Huss. So to me, I think their offense obviously is going to get a big boost if Stone is healthy and if Eichel is back to previous form. This is a team that defends well by nature. I think that, obviously they're going to look at the positives and say, well, there's $5 million of LTIR relief coming. We know that there was some issues with the cap last year, and they had to do a lot of juggling around. Didn't always have all their players available. But Nat, Laurent Brossoit, hey, he was waiting for this kind of opportunity when he was with Winnipeg, right? I mean, he had that one stretch where he got into a little bit more action than normal. If he comes back healthy, you know, the door is kind of open for him. But, I mean, Logan Thompson played well down the stretch. Logan Thompson isn't the reason the Golden Knights didn't qualify. They didn't score enough, which has been their problem, you know, for the last couple of years in terms of the playoffs anyways. So, you know, it's a kind of rags to riches CIS player becomes starting goalie story. I mean, it's a storybook kind of, this is more of an LA kind of Hollywood fairy tale type of story. But, I mean, the door's open for Logan Thompson here as well. I think they will probably, you know, see how it goes at the beginning. But, I mean, again, what we know about the Golden Knights, if there's an area of need, they go out and address it, and they're not afraid to take big swings. So I don't think they have the flexibility to go out and get a number one right now. But, I mean, they're going to, you know, kind of give it the opportunity to the guys that you mentioned, the three guys that are in the system, and then sort of see what happens from there. But, I mean, the other thing, too, well, it's in the Pacific. LA obviously took a big jump last year. But in the Pacific, you're basically looking at Edmonton and Calgary, and then it's kind of a free-for-all, I would say, for that third spot. Vegas will still be a contender for that spot, I would say. But, yeah, I mean, this is a big blow for them for sure. But, again, I think it would be silly to think that they're just going to kind of curl up in a ball and move on. I mean, Kelly McCrimmon has some similar qualities to Brad Treliving. I mean, they're not going to sit back in the corner and feel sorry for themselves. I mean, they're going to go out and try to make moves that make the team better. And, yeah, the reason why they made the move for Eichel was not just a 3-month deal. I mean, they went out and got Eichel because they expect to be a Stanley Cup contender for the next, you know, 4 or 5 seasons. So I would expect them to still be a very competitive team. And if they need more in net, they're going to go out and get it.
Weber, great stuff. Hey, I've got a suggestion for you to make this trip even better. Reach into your pocket, grab your stack. You might even want to reach over into Stacy's purse and see what she's got kicking around, and then walk into the sports book and slam it on the Bombers tonight to go 10-0. You're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss quite a scene here tonight. 30,000 plus, and a team going to looking to remain undefeated.
Oh, I know, Huss. I mean, I've already got plans in motion to be at the August 25th game. I'm looking forward to that very much, and definitely the flight time is not very conducive to checking in on the game tonight. But I'll definitely have my eyes open until the bird gets up in the air. That's for sure.
Hey, listen, have a great rest of the trip. Say hi to the gang there, and we'll look forward to catching up with you when you get back here. And hopefully we'll have a little more Jets news after a very quiet week, other than a couple signings to get to coming up next week. Because as you mentioned, still a few things on the to-do list heading into the year.
Absolutely, Huss. Have a great time at the game tonight, and we'll talk to you soon, my man. Thanks again.
Right on. Thanks so much. There's Kenny Wiebe at Weeb's World on Twitter. Kind enough to join us from Sin City, where he's continuing gallivanting as he's been doing throughout the summer. But always great to have Kenny on the program. Brandon normally joins us today. Swap the guys out, so Rewicki will be on tomorrow. We'll talk more NHL. Certainly, I'm sure Brandon will be at or watching the game tonight. We'll get to all of that. We are going to talk a little tennis, and then we're going to have a chance to win some tickets to tonight's game. But before we do that, Princess Auto, as I mentioned, talking with Ed, proud sponsors of WST and very proud sponsors of the Bombers, welcomes all Bomber fans to the Princess Auto tailgate party beginning 5:30 p.m. outside of the stadium. Cheap beers, hot dogs, pop, DJ Finesse spinning, prizes from Princess Auto. Get there early, folks, and make the most of game day at the Princess Auto tailgate party. And, of course, Princess Auto is the place where you'll find the best selection and unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. 2 Winnipeg locations, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365 at princessauto.com. Great spot to watch the game if you're not able to get down to IG Field tonight. Of course, is Boston Pizza. Check out their great new summer menu, special summer drinks, carnitas, pizzas, and tacos. Pizza flights are back. And if you are staying home and watching the game, and my boy Dustin Nielsen calling it on TSN, check out Boston Pizza's game day deals and order online at bostonpizza.com. And as I mentioned before, do not forget, today is Miracle Treat Day at Dairy Queen. Our great friends of at Nick and Nikki with their 4 locations, DQ Northgate, DQ Niverville, DQ Polo Park, DQ St. Anne's are waiting for you, as well as all other Dairy Queens. All proceeds from every Blizzard sold go to Children's Miracle Network and the Children's Hospital of Manitoba. 100% of the funds stay in Manitoba. And last year, their group of DQs built and funded a new EKG stress room at the Children's Hospital, so the money really does go directly to great use, as if you needed another reason to go get on a Blizzard with Nick and Nikki. Great support from them for us, and obviously this great endeavor. All right, we will have an opportunity to get to the game tonight with our friends at Canadian Club coming up in a few minutes, so don't go anywhere. But what a night it was last night at the National Bank Open. Serena Williams bowing out, but being celebrated for her incredible career. And Bianca Andreescu on the comeback trail with a big win. Now let's check up right now on what's happening both in Toronto and Montreal. And when we talk tennis, we do it with our good friend, John Horn. John, what's going on? How are you?
What's going on, guys? I really enjoy the fish in your background there, I have to say, on the screen. It's a nice touch for the summer.
You know what? It's we just couldn't keep the fire going all summer long. So we got in.
I can't offer that. See the TV over here, somewhere over here. I got nothing. Sorry.
Let's get into it. I mean, always it's a huge week for tennis in the country, and tennis has grown so much over the last few years with the talented young players. So here we are with the National Bank Open, and we'll talk about the Canadians and we'll talk about the players that are still remaining, but it'd be kind of hard not to start off this conversation without discussing Serena Williams' announcement that, she's evolving from the game. I think most people refer that as retiring at the end of the U.S. Open, bounced from the tournament last night, but what a scene on center court as the appreciation of Canadian tennis fans was there for all display. And it seemed like it was a pretty emotional time for Serena as well.
Yeah, I did have a bit of a chuckle because, as you just said, not retiring, evolving into the new part of her career. And then I also had a laugh when, and this is something that's well known in the media circles, at least, is that she doesn't celebrate birthdays either. So then I found it quite amusing that they got her and her daughter something for their birthdays, and then she announces that she doesn't celebrate birthdays. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, look, Serena Williams has had an outstanding career. She's done everything that you could possibly imagine in tennis. She's won gold medals in Olympics. She's won doubles titles, Grand Slams, 23 of them, multiple titles overall. Almost 100 million in earnings just on court, millions of dollars, probably double that what she's made off the court. She's always on the Forbes highest paid athletes list. But more importantly, I think she's done a lot for women's sports. And I think in this day and age, having role models for women and girls to look up to is certainly a big deal. And the fact that, she's not, your average woman who grew up in a country club lifestyle, which is what a lot of people think of tennis as, similar to what Tiger Woods did in golf. A lot of people always looked at golf as this sort of, elite sport that only people could play with money. And Tiger sort of came along and sort of changed that narrative. And Serena Williams and Venus Williams have come and changed that narrative that, if you come from a downtrodden area in Compton, California, and you're a person of color, and you have to deal with gangs who are harassing you while you're playing tennis, and harassing your father, beating up your father, and that sort of thing. What kind of influence is that on kids who are in that same situation or who come from backgrounds they're not as good as what everybody else had it. So she's a great role model for kids. She's a great model for other tennis players. Her work ethic over the years has been excellent. It's kind of neat that she's been able to do it with her older sister, and kind of Venus kind of really goes under the radar. I mean, she's had a pretty good career too. And, when you talk about the Williams sisters, really now it's more about Serena than it is about Venus. So, obviously I think it's time for her to call it a career. She's not playing full time. She's obviously not as fit as she once was, and she's older. The players are younger, but she's still out there battling. And she went 3 sets at Wimbledon, almost 3 hours. Might have been 3 hours. She won her first round match here in Toronto. So I think it's the fact that she's able to still play and still want to go out there and play. I was definitely caught off guard when she decided to suddenly come back because she hadn't played for so long, and then suddenly, she's going to be playing Wimbledon. And I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. And she played a tune-up in doubles, and then she played Wimbledon. And I kind of had a feeling that maybe the reason she came back quickly was because maybe she was going to call it a career at the end of this year, or maybe the Australian Open next year. But then when she announced in her article that she's evolving into retirement after the U.S. Open, it kind of made sense why she came back so suddenly and so quickly. So good on her for a great career, great role model, arguably the greatest women's sports athlete of all time. And I think, she's obviously done a lot for the game and a lot for sports, and she'll go down as one of the greatest of all time in any sport, man or woman.
Well, no doubt. And honestly, one of the greatest, most dominant athletes in their particular sport. I mean, certainly in my lifetime, sort of similar to what's happened this week, but now that she's been out, we'll sort of more focus on the quarters and the semis and the finals. But really, the first couple days of this tournament, and certainly what we saw last night, has been all about Serena, her greatness, and the last opportunity to see her. And I imagine that is just going to be ramped up exponentially once they get to Queens for the U.S. Open.
Yeah, I mean, it's good and it's bad in some ways. It's good because she obviously deserves all the accolades for everything that she's done, and there should be a big send-off, and the crowd is appreciative of her. And when you're, in our age bracket, for example, she's been around essentially since we were just out of the teenage years. I mean, she started in the year 2000. I mean, some people were in their teenage years. They've grown up with her. They've had kids. A lot has happened from the day that they started playing tennis to now retiring. It's been a lot of years. So, it's definitely deserving. The only thing I would say is that the unfortunate part about it is, and this is kind of like the men's tournament as well, is that, when Nadal said that he pulled out of the men's, it was like, oh, Nadal's out of the men's. This is going to suck now because, Federer is not there, Djokovic is not there, and now Nadal's not there. It's not good for the tournament. Well, eventually it's going to be like that. Like all three of those guys are going to retire. Two of them probably are going to retire sooner rather than later. So you're going to have to get used to seeing other players. And the one thing that Serena playing, it's nice to have her, and she obviously deserves everything she gets. But then it kind of takes away from the rest of the tournament because it's like you said, all the talk has been on Serena playing, and then she announces that she's leaving the sport for the most part, and then that becomes the topic, and you kind of forget that, oh, by the way, Iga Swiatek, the number one player in the world who won 37 straight matches at one point, yeah, she's playing in this tournament, and so are a bunch of other good players, whether it's Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, Jessie Pegula, Maria Sakkari. There's a lot of good players in the draw, who kind of go under the radar now because it's all been talking about Serena. So now the Serena thing is done in Canada, and now everyone can start focusing on the other players, and especially Bianca Andreescu because she's in the third round. She's won a couple of matches now. Well,
I wanted to get to Bianca. I mean, once the pomp and circumstance was finished for Serena, it was time for Bibi to take the court, and she beat a seeded player in the first round, another big win last night, and looked great on the court. I mean, this is a woman that, I remember, John, when she started off and had that breakthrough, I want to say at Indian Wells, and we saw how good she could be at the U.S. Open when she went all the way, and then the last couple of years, she has been really hampered by injuries. But I got to tell you, last night, she looked like she had the game. She looked like she had the fitness. This has got to be great for someone that's really been somewhat star-crossed for the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, I mean, the big thing with her is that she's got such a good all-round game, and I think that's what makes her so dangerous. And we were actually talking about it on one of the broadcasts last night, is that, she has such a strong game in terms of she can go to the baseline and hit with the big players. She can come to the net and volley. She can throw in slice forehands and slice backhands to try and change up the pace. She can throw in a drop shot. She serves relatively well. She's got all aspects of and she moves really well out there too. So she's got all aspects of the game. So if she's playing against a hard hitter like a Pliskova or a Sakkari, then she can play from the baseline if she needs to, but she can also play it with some of the other tough players like the Ons Jabeurs, the Kennons, the Swiateks, players who can take pace off themselves and mix the ball up as well. So I think that's what makes her so dangerous, is that she's got such a good all-around game, and that she can play, she can look at her opponents and go, okay, well, this player hits hard. Maybe I'll throw in a few drop shots. Maybe they don't move as well, so I'll do that. That's what I think makes her so dangerous. And, you're right. She hasn't really been playing a lot of tennis. She came back. She started off the year missing a bunch of time and then came back. It had a bit of a nagging back problem, which she had in San Jose last week. And then I guess she had a stomach issue in the first round match that she ended up winning, but that seems to have cleared up. So as long as she can stay healthy, there's no reason to think that she can't go deep into tournaments and get back into the top 10 in the world rankings because, like you said last night, I mean, okay, she was playing Elise Cornet, who's actually had a really good year this year. She's not playing, Maria Sakkari or, one of the other top players, although she did beat Kazakina in the first round, who won in San Jose a couple days before. Let's see how she does. But there's no reason to think that she can't continue, to rack up some wins. And I almost think she's playing with house money this year. I kind of feel like, this year would be, okay, let's see how she does for the rest of this year. And if she does well, great. If she doesn't, that's okay. Let's see the starting point next year. Let's see how fit she is next year. Let's see how she's doing health-wise and starting off in Australia. And it could be a big year for her. She can get her ranking up and avoid some of these seeded players in the early tournament or early rounds of tournaments. How
does she shape up against Zhang, her Chinese opponent, tonight? And what does the draw look like for Bianca if she wins this?
Well, she got a tough player tonight in Zhang Qinwen. She's 19 years old, first year on the tour for the most part. Big hitter, big serve. She pretty much schooled Ange Jabeur last night, although Jabeur pulled out in the second set with an abdominal injury. I don't know if that was bothering her in the first set, but Zhang's got a really big forehand, and she serves big. And she's 6 feet tall. It's not going to be an easy task. So I think Bianca, what she's going to have to do is she's going to have to go into that toolbox and look for some things to try and get Zhang off of her game. And I think you'll see some drop shots. I think you'll see some slice to try and change the pace a little bit, try and get her to move her opponent around. Although Zhang moves quite well too for a tall player. So it's not going to be a pushover for her. I mean, it's going to be a tough task. And then after that, she gets the winner of Sakkari and Pliskova, which is a match I'm doing later today. And that should be a good one too. Sakkari's had a little bit of a rough run the last few months, and she got to number 3 in the world. And then Pliskova has been hurt for a bunch of the year and the first part of the year rather, and hasn't really played that well since. So, every tournament is tough. There's always going to be, even if it's an unseeded player who's ranked 50th or 60th in the world, there are no pushovers. Bianca's not seeded herself. So you're always going to have to face the tough players. And if she gets through those 2 matches, then maybe semifinals against Swiatek, which would be outstanding. So we'll see what happens. But certainly has the game right now. I feel as long as she stays healthy, to at least get to the semifinals of this tournament.
Well, and we know the emotion that she plays with as well. I mean, I think feeding off the crowd tonight, getting them behind her, which they certainly will be, can hopefully keep her around in the tournament because, of course, Layla lost in the second round. But as far as the men's go, I want to talk about Felix, who's still alive. But what's up with Shapo? Did I see that right? He's lost 9 of his last 10 matches and was bounced in the first round?
Yeah, I think it's either 8 of 9 or 9 of 10, one of the two. But it's certainly been a rough run. He has not played very good tennis at all. I've been asked about Shapo. Whenever something goes wrong with one of the Canadian players, there's always concern as to what's really going on. I just think that he's playing the same style of game that he's been playing for the last couple of years. It's the go broke style, and personally, it doesn't work for me. I just think that it's too risky. The players are too good now. When it works, it's great. It looks great. But when it doesn't work and it doesn't look great at all, and it's just like, when he hits one of those great one-handed backhands down the line and he jumps in the air, it's like a thing of beauty. It looks like the best shot in tennis that you'll ever see. But then sometimes you see the big backhands that go, 10 feet outside the baseline and they don't look good. His serve has been a big problem. He's a lot of double faults, a lot of inconsistency with the second serve. He's changed coaches. I thought at the beginning of the year when he had Jamie Delgado, Andy Murray's old coach, that was really going to be good for him and was going to be good stability for him. That hasn't worked out. That fizzled out, and they're no longer together. So I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a mystery as to why he just plays so erratically and he plays, just for the big shots all the time. And I think he needs to be a lot more patient out there and get into rallies a little bit more, figure out this serve problem that he's got. He does come to the net. He's got a good volley, and sometimes he places the ball really well. But the unfortunate part is if you go for the lines too much and you try and go for too much in the right situations, the good players are going to beat you. And that's why, he hasn't had much success. I mean, quite frankly, he's only been into 3 finals in his career, and he's only won once. I would say that that's an underachievement so far. I think he should have done better with his talent and what he brings to the game. Often I get asked, who's going to win a slam first? Is it going to be Dennis or Felix? And I mean, this is pre Dennis's poor run here. But I just think Felix's game is much better. It's a lot more consistent. It's a lot more. It's a lot smarter. He looks a lot more composed out there. You often see Shapovalov getting irritated out there and yelling at people and yelling at his box and that sort of thing. That's not Felix's style at all, and I think that style just works better.
Well, speaking of Felix, he'll be on the court later on today, taking on Cameron Norrie. He's a slight favorite in this matchup. Fill us in on what's to come for Felix and how excited should we be about his prospects of moving on, especially after Kyrgios bounced number 1 seed Daniil Medvedev in a bit of a big upset.
Yeah, I didn't actually think that I would ever say that Kyrgios is going to be the issue, that if Felix wants to win this tournament on home soil, that he'd have to get past Kyrgios. So, but that's the way it's kind of looking because Kyrgios took out Medvedev. So, yeah, I mean, I'm actually a little surprised that Norrie is the favorite in this match, just because it's, Felix is the higher seed and he's playing on home soil. But Norrie did beat him in Mexico last week, so that could be part of the reason. I'll take Felix in that match if I had to. He's beaten Norrie in the past before losing this match in Mexico last week. I think he's a better player. I think he's got more weapons. And the fact he's going to have the crowd with him is going to be huge too. You assume that that's going to be a motivating factor for Felix. He doesn't really seem to get frazzled by he's playing in front of home crowds or anything. Bianca, same thing. They seem to, feed off of it. So, yeah, I mean, if he can get through Norrie, then, Kyrgios could be waiting in the semis. I mean, Kyrgios is just playing some outstanding tennis right now himself, and won the doubles and the singles in Washington, coming off a Wimbledon final, won the Australian Open doubles, won the Atlanta doubles. He's really done a good job of composing himself and finding his game. And I think it's a maturity thing with him. So I think that definitely he's become more mature. He's 27 now. He's got a stable life. He's got a girlfriend travels with him, full-time physio, which I know has been a huge help for him, with the body. He's always had these little nagging injuries that he gets throughout the year. And he always says because he doesn't train hard enough. Well, now he's training hard enough, and now he's getting 3-hour physio sessions after matches. So I think it's a different Nick Kyrgios out there. He looks leaner. He looks more fit. And I think he's more composed out there. We still see the antics on occasion, like we did at Wimbledon, and it's just the way he is out there. But certainly, I think he looks a lot more confident. Looks like he's enjoying himself out there, which is something he said in the past he wasn't even enjoying himself. And tennis was almost a job for him. Now he seems to be taking in and enjoying the situations, and I think that's good. It's good for the sport.
Yeah, well, just wait 5 minutes with Kyrgios. I mean, the guy's as mercurial as maybe any athlete as we've seen, but a hell of a talent and is having a great year. Well, fingers crossed we'll be able to talk about Bianca and Felix heading into the weekend. John, thanks so much for doing this, and we'll look forward to hearing you on the tube coming up for the Cincinnati tournament with the World Feed here in Canada on Canadian television. Thanks so much. Be well and enjoy the rest of the tourney.
Yeah, same to you guys. Always enjoy talking tennis, and let's see if we can get a couple Canadians in the final. Why not?
All right, good stuff with John Horn. Always appreciate him jumping on with us. And yeah, he will be doing the broadcast that I guess we'll see on TSN on the World Feed from the Cincinnati tournament. So we'll definitely have John on again. But some great tennis, and obviously hoping that Bianca and Felix can still be kicking around in Toronto and Montreal, respectively, on the weekend. All right, we have an announcement to make. Before we do that, though, I will remind you, Rima on another good night. He's closing the gap at Assiniboia Downs.
Yeah.
No live racing tonight or Friday, but they're back at it Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And if you want to make plans to get out to the track next week, give them a call at 885-3330. If you'd like to make a reservation in the dining lounge overlooking the racetrack, check out the prime rib buffet and more. Do that. Everything available for you at asdowns.com. Now, we're going to do our Coolbet Lines in a second. We are also going to do a little giveaway for our friends at Canadian Club. Now, Canadian Club, many of you will be going to the game. Even more will be going to the game in about 10 or 15 minutes after we give some tickets away, and we'll let you know how we're going to do that. But if you haven't already tried the great taste of summer, the ready-to-drink Canadian Club and ginger ale, it is go time for that tonight at the game. Try it out. It's available throughout IG Field, as well as all the great Beam Suntory products featuring Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And if you're looking to, maybe grab a 6-pack of something to tailgate with before, pop by your local beer store to check out the new CC and Ginger. All right, let's get Remis back in here, because a couple things. First things first. thank you to everyone for supporting Winnipeg Sports Talk, especially through the summer, which is normally a quieter time. It has not been that way for us. It seems the floor for the show is so much higher than it was when, even a year ago right now. But Remo, official thanks to everyone. We just got over 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. And man, it wasn't that long ago where we hit 7K. So it's been just amazing how many people that have actually found the channel over the course of the month.
Yeah, it's been a couple. Yeah, I remember the big celebration we had when we hit 69. That was really nice. But 8,000, way nicer. March to 10K is definitely on. And 8K, I'm feeling pretty jacked about it here. I'll go to our channel. And if you're a podcast listener, go hit the sub. If you're here and you're one of the 40% of the people that aren't subbed according to YouTube analytics.
Analytics? What?
Yeah.
Folks.
How crazy is
Free,
that?
It's easy. Bang. Get to YouTube. It'll be right there for you.
I don't know. Maybe they don't have an account. If you don't know how to sub, I do tech support, but here we go. 8K. There it is.
Nicely done. There we go. Perfect. So we're going to do something special in just a moment. By the way, Taylor Yule Miller is back. Taylor, we miss you too. Great to have you back in the chat. Taylor's going to be repping Canada at the World Dodgeball Championships as well. We may need to get her on to talk about that at some point in the next little bit. But great to see her back, one of the OGs of the YouTube chat. And Royal mentioning... Boom, you can see the jersey right here. Greg at Royal say the Blue are wearing these new third jerseys tonight. If you do want, as I mentioned earlier today, you want to grab one at Royal on the way to the game. They've got Jeffersons, Caleros, and Big Hills, and blanks like I have right now. So you want to go on the way to the game if you want to get one of these sweet jerseys. I love them over at Royal Sports. But yes, I mentioned that we've got tickets. A pair of tickets to the game. I also have a pair of Jim Beam social passes, which will get you into the game tonight, and a free CC and Ginger, although no assigned seat. And Remo, I think people are going to love this. Considering the big milestone today, I think we need to do an impromptu marble race for the tickets and send some WST listeners to this game tonight with 30,000 of their closest friends.
People have been asking, we get every day, do a marble race. This guy came into the show. You should do a marble race for that. Or it's Monday. You should do a marble race. Let's celebrate Monday. And we're just like, no, keep it to Friday. But yeah, 8K, I think, is it's great. I'm happy. Nice, even number. And yeah, we got some tickets to give away. It's going to be a big Bomber game tonight. So yeah, let's fire it up.
Now, let me just go into the account and make sure that this is as it seems, but I do believe we've got a pair of tickets to give away for the game and an extra pair of Jim Beam social passes for the game. So what we're going to do right now, Remo, why don't you open up the contest so people can get going. We'll let you know when it is live. And then, yes, we've got a couple of social passes for you. And for first place, we'll give them the choice. If they want to get the no seat with the free drink option, you can do that. And we'll give the tickets to second place. Or if they just like to go and have confirmed seats in section 102, can certainly do that. And we'll give second place to the thing. Now, I know everyone loves to go in the marble race. Please, for this one, we will do the regular marble race tomorrow. Go in this one if you can make the game and you don't have tickets already or you have extra people you can bring. Just because we do want to have these tickets used. Big thanks to the folks at Canadian Club as well for popping by. I know we had Luke and Gregory win yesterday, and we've got another pair of those as well. So just pay attention to the chat, everybody. And are we open, Reem? Did it actually get open?
I did it. It's open.
Okay, awesome. So you know the drill, folks, or if you are new, got to be subscribed to win, probably already. But if you're not, hit that red subscribe button and then put in the chat !marbles. And we'll finish off the show with a marble race with a couple of pairs to get in to join the place to be, 30,000 plus, all in blue. Looking to see if the Bombers can get to 10-0 tonight. So while we load that up, let's get to the odds for tonight's games in the Canadian Football League. And Remo, what can I say? We actually have we've got a couple of Coolbet exclusives. But first, let's get to the game. Tonight's game, the Bombers have been a big favorite all week long. But interestingly enough, this number, which was 12 earlier on, is now just at 9. So I'm not sure whether people think that the Montreal is just going to be much better, or it's just such a big number, it's tough to cover. Certainly on the Bombers right now. But if you just want to bet the game straight up, Bombers a huge favorite, minus 435 to the money line. But 9-point favorites tonight at minus 115. But if you go to Coolbet Specials, you click on Coolbet Exclusives. And under the Coolbet Exclusives, we've got two beauties for you here, folks. First of all, shout out to Jake and Pat for putting this together for me. Hustlerama's special tonight. Winnipeg, we're going to tease the Bombers down to 6.5. So Winnipeg minus 6.5. Essentially, the Bombers need to win by a converted touchdown and Dalton Schoen to score a touchdown. Plus 225 on that. As I said, you can bet that at more than 2-1. Bombers minus 6.5 and a Dalton Schoen TD. And then the one that I know many of us, this was, I think, Flair Hay hit me up on Twitter asking to get this booked. The guys at Coolbet turned around right away and got it done. We do have the Coolbet exclusive Bombers to finish the 2022 regular season undefeated. They're halfway there right now at 24-1. And listen, I think it's unlikely that comes through. Well, that's part of the reason why it's a 24-1 bet, Reem. But wouldn't it be something if we were talking about this and even had the option to hedge out going into those games against the BC Lions at the end? I know Mike O'Shea wouldn't want to hear us talk about this, but people are talking about it. 24-1 on the Bombers to go 18-0 in the regular season. And tell you what, I'm here for the conversation at least. And I'm obviously going to throw 10 or 20 bucks on this as well.
Yeah, how could you not? I mean, you look at the Bombers team and the rest of the CFL. And I've said this is the pairings: the Bombers, then a gap, then Nathan Rourke, then I think there's a gap, then Calgary, and then throw everyone else in there. With I think Edmonton's at the bottom, the whole East Division. We'll see about Saskatchewan this week. They're off a bye. Maybe they've improved. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm betting on that. The Bombers have got this favorable schedule. They clearly have the talent. Someone should print off the bet and just put it on Mike O'Shea's desk and see what he has to say.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So there you go. You got plenty of options. Plenty of options for the game tonight. Bombers 9-point favorites. And then there's a bunch of other props, actually. We should get to this. Touchdown scorer, Dalton Schoen, minus 118. Brady Oliveira, minus 105. Dembski, plus 105. Ellingson, plus 110.
Oh, here.
Funny enough, the top 4 players in that are all members of the Bombers. Eugene Lewis then clocks in. Bailey and Wolotarski as well. I would love to get a anytime touchdown score on Prukop. But that's not it. Although I know that he's sort of been banged up as well. So there you go. Anyways, you got all sorts of let's see the receiving yards numbers. Wolotarski's 36.5. Dalton Schoen 60.5. Ellingson 64.5. Eugene Lewis on Montreal is 80.5. Nick Dembski 50.5. And rushing yards, what's the Brady number? 63.5. Kind of like that number. He's been really, really good the last few weeks, and the running game seems to be really coming together. I think I might jump on the over as well. So there you go. Tons of options at Coolbet to bet on this game tonight. Quick update on the other games this week. The Argos are now 1-point favorites over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Questions as to whether it'll be Schiltz in a quarterback over Dane Evans in Hamilton for the game. BC is now 2.5-point favorites in Calgary. They opened up as just a 0.5-point favorite. It was pretty much a pick 'em originally. And the Riders 5.5-point favorites on the Edmonton Elks in the late game on Saturday. So there you go. If you've never played at Coolbet before, use the promo code WST on your first deposit. Give you a 100% bonus up to $200 at Coolbet. Perfect time to do that. You can get on this Bomber game tonight and have a nice fat account heading into NFL season, which of course is right around the corner. Way too degen to start talking about the lines on the NFL preseason games this week, but I can't promise I won't do that tomorrow or in future shows.
I do want to add also, if anyone wants to play fantasy on DraftKings, we got a league on there with a contest. I think we got about 10 more spots open. If anyone wants to play me for $1, I put out a bunch of head-to-heads if anyone wants to grab those. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this game goes for the Bombers. You know, a lot of turnovers last week hurt them, but they were able to get it done in the fourth quarter.
They didn't hurt it that much because that's the thing. Even when they complete 7 passes or lose the turnover thing, they still win and cover the number. So I'm surprised that the number has gone from 12 to 9. But as I said, we'll be a little more conservative. Let's get a Dalton Schoen touchdown. Let Bombers win by 7. Plus 225 on the Huss special over in the Coolbet exclusive section. We're going to have some more of those coming up. We're going to concoct some fun things. And if you ever have something that you would like me to get booked at Coolbet, send me a message on Twitter or a DM, and I'll do my best to make that happen. All right, Reem. Do you want to close up? Last call for marbles. Anyone wants in? We've got tickets for the game tonight. We've got a pair of tickets and a pair in the Jim Beam social zone, where it's not an assigned seat, but you do get a free CC and Ginger with those. So whoever is first place will have the choice if they want the assigned seats or the social pass. Whoever's in second will get the other one, whether it's seats or the social pass. But the bottom line is you'll be in along with 30,000 plus for what should be an amazing night tonight at IG Field. All right, we're going to close that up, Reem?
I'll close it up now. I do want to say, just last call, yeah. Make sure you hit the thumbs up too. Can we get to 200? We need
let's get to 200,
up.
folks. I know there's a lot of people back in for the marble race, hearing what's going on. If you haven't already, make sure you've hit the red subscribe button to the channel. We can now move towards 9,000 after a great last month, getting to 8K. And do us a favor, just hit that thumbs up button. Helps us spread the channel as well. All right, Reem. So why don't you get the marble set up? And while you do that, I'm going to do a quick look at the FedEx Cup playoffs. Now, there was an incident today, and I will direct you to social media to find it, although you might have to look a little harder because the original video that I believe the tour put out has been taken off. Pretty interesting situation. World number 1, Scotty Scheffler, playing with world number 2, Cam Smith. Of course, Cam Smith's widely been reported that he is leaving the PGA Tour and joining LIV after the FedEx Cup playoffs. That's not going over well with the guys that are sticking around. And Scotty Scheffler, basically, what the video looked like, walked right in front of Cam Smith as he was leaning down, looking at his putt, essentially walking in front of him, walking over his line, which is it's not even a microaggression when it comes to golf. It was a very, very weird situation, and a lot of people talking about it. And the video has since been taken off, but there are a bunch of people that recorded it off their television, so it's out there as well. So Cam Smith's in. The guys that were suing the tour, like Taylor Gooch, trying to get in, it didn't work. They're not in it right now. And Ricky Fowler actually was the last place guy, I believe the 125th spot once it all shook out. Siwoo Kim shot a 28 on the back 9 today. He is tied for the lead after shooting 62 with JJ Spawn. But don't look now. Tied for second, 2 shots back as I look to make it 5 winners in a row in the lock shop is my guy, Tony, back-to-back Pheno, coming off wins at the Rocket Mortgage in the 3M. Tony with a 64 in the first round. He is looking good. He and JT Poston at 6 under. Troy Merritt, Tyrrell Hatton, Sam Burns, and Ricky Fowler at 5 under par. This would be huge for Ricky. Jason Day in that mix as well. Canadian and Coolbet guy, Taylor Pendrith. Great start to his round. He's 4 under, along with Max Homa as well. You move down to the 3s. You've got Cam Davis, Canadian Mac Hughes, Victor Hovland, Justin Thomas, and Cam Smith, who, as I said, unfortunately, very sadly, looks to be leaving the PGA Tour. It's a big favorite of mine, won the Open Championship, won a lot of us a bunch of money. But if he's gone, he's going to be gone. So FedEx St. Jude Championship right now. Tomorrow, we'll give you the latest, a little bit of a cut sweat heading into the first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs. And again, big shout out to our friends at Breezy Bend who support us, our golf sponsor. If you're looking for an amazing spot for your family, for your golfing future, talk to Corey Johnson at Breezy about getting on the waiting list for next year. You can find out more on everything Breezy Bend has to offer over at breezybend.ca. Doing a media event next Monday. I'm hoping to get out for that. Potentially might even pick up and do the show down there as well tomorrow or next week. But we'll definitely be trying to get out there when, of course, the Canadian Mid-Am and Senior Women's National Championships comes to Breezy later on this month. All right, Mr. Remis, a special Thursday 8K edition of the Marble Race. Bomber tickets and a Bomber Jim Beam social pass available right now. First place will get the choice, but regardless, if you're in the top two, you're going to the game tonight. Are we all ready to go? I guess we need to talk to Tristan Rivers Music first before the festivities truly get on.
Oh, sorry, I screwed up. Let's just do it here.
All right. Yes, Hot Linda and everybody else will be added in tomorrow for the weekly marble race. If you're new to the channel, this is normally something we reserve for the last order of business on Fridays, a very popular way to give away some prizes with our friends at Canadian Club and finish off what's always a fun week. But with the big game tonight, with a pair of tickets and a couple other opportunities for people to get into the Jim Beam Social Pass, we thought, well, let's give them away. And considering you guys have supported us so well, getting us over 8,000 subs on YouTube, we figured it has to be marble race time. So to recap, we've got a pair of tickets for the game tonight, and we also have 2 Jim Beam Social Passes, which has no assigned seat. You can hang out in the rum hut or potentially go and find one. I'm sure there'll be a few seats if you would like. And those also come with a free Canadian Club and ginger ale that you can redeem at the game as well. All right, Reem. Well, thanks again to everyone. Let's get ready for this game tonight. And before we start tailgating, let's drop a marbles on a special 8K YouTube sub edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk before the Bombers look to go 10-0.
And they're off.
All right. Great start. Everyone looking to be part of the crowd tonight. Big funnel. Chris Vermette looking good early. Blue Thunder. Bart Omand seemingly I think Chris and Bart right now, seemingly the top 2 guys. Chris is first through. Bart Omand behind, and Rob Pepper, Andrew Haleko, and Troll Poet Laureate right now with the early leads. Chris in the lead, smoothly negotiating through those obstacles into the funnel. And Chris is still in the lead, the first one through the next one. Now he's taking the right side. Bart Omand's on the left. We'll see how this works out. But by my calculations, Chris Vermette still in first place. Into the next funnel. No, that was a solid transition from funnel into the tube. Chris with even a little bit bigger of a lead right now. And it looks like Andrew Haleko and Bart Omand are battling it out for second place right now. Chris still in the lead. First guy out through the funnel. This is quite a clinic that Chris Vermette is putting on right now. Andrew Haleko, Bart Omand, Rob Pepper, Taylor Ewell Miller also in the mix for these seats right now. But it's Chris Vermette. And Chris is having a few issues here, but he gets through the red bar and now it seems like he is all but home free. Another WST OG, Chris Vermette, and I'm not sure Chris has ever won a marble race before, although he sure has been in a lot. Here it is. Our first place winner is Chris Vermette. Now, who's going to be second? Bart Oman, Andrew Haleko from opposite sides. Who is it? Andrew Haleko in just by a nick over Bart Oman. What an incredible finish for the second pair of tickets for tonight's game. Listen, I don't mind doing the wheel of winners, but there's nothing like the excitement at the end of a WST marble race. So, Chris, congratulations. You nailed it today, my friend. If you want, fire an email or send me a DM on Twitter and just let me know whether you want the tickets or whether you want the Jim Beam social passes. And Andrew, if you could also send us an email at winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Just let me know what address you want me to send the tickets to. As soon as the show is over, I will send you either the social passes with the free drinks without the assigned seat or the seats for tonight's game after we see what Chris wants to do. That was a heck of a lot of fun, Remo. Great way to finish up the week.
What a race that was.
Although I guess we didn't finish the week. I'm thinking it's a game tonight. It really does feel like Friday. I keep needing to remind myself we actually are in fact working tomorrow.
Yeah, we got a show. Well, I'm so pumped we have a show tomorrow. We can recap this Bomber game, this Bomber beatdown that's going to happen, right? Or so we think in front of 30K.
Fingers crossed. Everyone except Woke Tokes is feeling that way in the chat.
Yeah, and this is how close it was. Less than a second for between second and third for that second spot. But Chris Vermette really going wire to wire.
Yeah,
there no like drama in that race. Although there was drama for second between Andrew.
Although
Andrew
you know
Bart.
what, we're changing. We got to change up the course for tomorrow because we've done that few ones. And the one thing I'll say is you pretty much know the 4 or 5 marbles that are going to be there at the end coming out of the first funnel. Like it's all about the start on that. On that
was twists and turns. I'll find a different one. Maybe we'll head back to the dojo or the factory, the laboratory. Who knows? But yeah, shout out to those guys.
Andrew Haleko, pasta for lunch, carb loading put me over the top. Well, listen, you're going to need probably some carb loading as well because if you have those social passes, we'll have a drink for you at the game tonight. And as I said, I think they're going to be moving a few of those tonight. It is going to be a lot of fun. 5:30 Princess Auto Tailgate Party opens. And then the festivities really get going just before 7:30, of course, military night flyover, which is always really cool. And the biggest crowd of the year, over 30,000 tickets sold for tonight's game. And hopefully that number will get to 32, 31. I mean, there's still time to get in. If you didn't win the tickets with us, unfortunately, Andrew and Chris were our winners. But you know what? Still, make a point of getting down there. Get online, bombers.com, bluebombers.com. for tickets as well. I'm feeling good about this one tonight. I think people are going to be leaving having a great time at the game, and I think they're going to be leaving happy, and I think we're going to be talking about a 10-0 perfect record for the first time since 1960, and the Bombers' 400th win as the first CFL team to do that coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, don't tell Mike O'Shea that. They were asking him about going 10-0. He's like, we're just trying to go 1-0. Right?
Yeah, 1-0 tonight. Oh, Derek Schmidt. Thank you, Derek, for this. 50-50 update as well for tonight's game. $142,440. So, Scardy asking what a sellout is at IGF. It's about 33,000, I believe. Derek Schmidt says 33.5. So that is essentially what it is. Motruck is asking about mobile entries.
For the marble race, you can type it. Maybe you didn't type it correctly or you typed it late. I'm not sure.
I'll tell you what, you'll have another chance to do it tomorrow because our regular marble race will take place on Friday. And as I said, tomorrow's going to be a real fun show. Rawicki's going to jump on. We'll obviously recap the program. Hacksaw, marbles, a heck of a great way to finish up the week and head in. And who knows, maybe we'll have some Jets news tomorrow, Remis, on top of hopefully talking about a big Bomber win.
It's actually been a decent week so far for Jets news. We had the Appleton signing, which we've squeezed a lot of juice out of. The David Gustafson signing yesterday. but also means that all their RFAs is signed. And now we can say, okay, what's next? Come on, let's see some more news. What are we going to talk about here the last 2 weeks of August? We got
Lowry's right hand.
Sorry. I was going to say, we got to get through to this Young Stars camp on the 16th.
Young Stars camp. Well, can't wait for the Young Stars camp.
I can't wait. What do you mean? Don't you want to see how they do? We didn't get a development camp. So don't you want to see these guys on the ice wearing Jets jerseys for the first time?
I mean, how do we see that? I guess maybe there'll be a YouTube
streaming on YouTube
of that.
Who's going to be doing the play-by-play? That's also the question. We're going to have that.
Well, that question is a big one. And of course, Dennis, I know we're all going to miss Dennis this year. Dennis is back behind the mic at the World Junior Hockey Championships, and he's doing a bunch of the games. So if you're looking at one of the non-Canada games, I believe he was doing Czech Finland right now.
Yeah, he's calling Brad Lambert's goals.
Absolutely. Brad Lambert and Torgerson, both with a nice start. I mean, I'll be honest, my enthusiasm and interest level for this World Junior is frankly a 1 out of 10. But I am looking forward to seeing what the two Jet prospects can do. And certainly for all the kids playing in this event, it would be nice if they got a little bit more support. But middle of August, charging $130 a head as to get in price. Listen, we're going to be seeing a lot of empty seats for the rest of the way. And
what's going on with that? Who's setting the pricing? Don't they have dynamic pricing?
The accountants.
Like, it's crazy, right? Don't they want people in the building? You think it would be like a nice, like, goodwill thing?
That's how arrogant some of the people there are. They actually thought that they would sell those tickets at $130 a pop. I mean, listen, don't even get me going on it. It's there's a lot of issues with this tournament, but that outside of the horrible sexual assault scandal, everything else, I mean, just the fact that they think that they can get away with that it just shows how out of touch some people are there. And unfortunately, the tournament's really going to take a step back, and they're going to lose a ton of money, and that's going to hurt hockey in the country.
I feel like that's been a thing the last couple of years, them putting these tournaments and charging like ridiculous prices and no one going. I feel like that's not the first time we've talked about that. Right?
No, listen, post 1999, after it was here in Winnipeg and such a big success, they decided that they were going to go to bigger rinks to try to charge more money. I mean, essentially, it became the goose that laid the golden egg. And unfortunately, they may have finally killed the goose because there's not a lot of gold right now for the people that are putting on the World Junior Hockey Championships. That being said, hopefully Canada can get to 2-0 with the win tonight. All the games over on TSN. Lowry's right hand with me, 24-1, Tony Finau. That is, listen, he's gone back to back. Good things happen in threes. I'm completely with you. And he was one of my 3 picks for the lock shop. So if that happens, we're both getting paid and I will have an unprecedented streak of 5 straight winners on the PGA Tour. Follow that tomorrow as well. But tonight, it's all about the blue and gold, the new third jerseys, 30,000 plus at IG Field, and a rematch with the Montreal Alouettes. Thanks to Ed Tait for joining us. Thanks to Ken Wiebe and John Horn as well, and everyone who joined us, and especially everyone that supported the channel, subscribing, getting us to 8,000, and continuing to move up, and away heading into next season. Folks, if you see me at the game tonight, say hi. I cannot wait. And we'll be here tomorrow, 1 p.m., live on YouTube to break it down for you and get you heading into the weekend. And we will have a big marble race tomorrow as well, as we normally do on Fridays. Enjoy the game. Have a great time. Be safe. Take transit, if you will. Many great options to get to the game. But bottom line is get there, be loud, and be here tomorrow, 1 p.m. on a Friday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.